Literally on StarWars.com, they pretty much say that Luke became one of the greatest Jedi the galaxy has ever known. That should be obvious. Luke Skywalker is a character that's went through some crazy evolutions. Matter of fact, there's a big chunk of Luke Skywalker's timeline that happened off screen, and we don't know what happened during that time other than him getting better with the Force and training the future Jedi, apparently. Like Kylo Ren, who ended up going to the dark side and stuff and then ended up redeeming himself, blah, blah, blah. But somewhere throughout this gap, he learned tricky abilities with the Force. He can do mind manipulation, Jedi mind trick type stuff, to where he can have people that's not on his side help him out. He learned how to make a astral projected energy avatar of himself, to where even if he's not on the planet, he can still interact with beings. This makes him really hard to fight in combat because he can go completely intangible mode. This does take a lot of strain though. Shoots at him in this energy avatar state, trolls him and said, "Is that all you got?" Heck, his power increased so fast at one point that even from this movie to this movie, his power drastically increased. And then this to this. But in comic lore, we did get to see a little bit of him a little bit older. In the Star Wars Rise of Kylo Ren comic, he actually battled the Knights of Ren as Grandmaster Luke. In a part of his timeline, you can see Luke training the youngins to rebuild the Jedis or Force users. Exploring the entirety of planet Earth is one thing, and the thought of exploring planets within our own solar system sounds even more impossible considering how this one big planet is we gotta live on. And then the more we think about it, the more smaller we feel, because imagine a galaxy that has thousands of solar systems within it. Then imagine a galaxy laid out with one government and a whole bunch of planets within the galaxy, but they're all under one big government. And they treat the different planets within this galaxy of Star Wars like how on Earth we treat cities. They have futuristic technology that can travel from planet to planet because space is vast and it's pretty much impossible to get anywhere in space without some sort of light speed type of travel. The official StarWars.com explains this government the best. It's as a democratic union that governed the galaxy, consisted of elected officials for each system and world, and Jedi Knights served as peacekeepers, or one could say police kinda. This eventually crumbled to where a tyranny was made to where it was ruled by still a government, but a more terrifying government. Since it's a galaxy and not just one planet, there's a whole bunch of races in this government, and the different races actually communicate with each other like it ain't no big deal, a whole bunch of different looks and etc. But on top of this universe having ridiculous technology, you know, different beings have different genetics, and certain beings or individuals are gifted with this mysterious energy field created by life that binds the galaxy together. These Jedi, aka the Peacekeepers, aka select few individual rare individuals that actually can harness this power, they use this to do superhuman stuff to further enforce their peacekeeping ways. Just like in real life, some people have better genetic potential than the others. A good example of one of the beings that's top tier that use the Force, of course, we all know of Darth Vader, but he had a son. And thanks to his genetics, his son was one of the most powerful Force users of all time. But how strong are we talking? He knows how to wield a blade, aka a laser sword, to help deflect blasters and stuff with reflexes. One can argue Jedi are like swordsmen. Their reflexes are so good as Jedi, like it's honestly no point in even trying to shoot them. You're not going to hit them. All these blasters he can deflect. It's just a common theme. And even deflecting all three of these blasts at once. This is extremely consistent, guys. Yeah, even from beings that have great accuracy, like Boba Fett, he can deflect attacks from, since he's so in tune with the Force, think of the Force giving him his own form of spider sense, or one can say precognition, to help him be able to react to stuff even better than normal, which also sharpens his reflexes more. In this book, for example, they talk about the Force, and this direct quote can be taken from the book, talking about how the Force will give you the reflexes you need to guide the blade where it needs to be, implying the Force itself enhances their reflexes on some precognition type stuff. One can say that Jedi have their own form of Ultra Instinct, because this is another thing taken from this particular book. For example, this exact quote on opening himself up to the Force, and talks about how it's more of an instinct process on how it guides them in that way. And in this same novel, it literally was stated it gives them heightened reflexes in battles and maybe a tiny bit of predictive ability. So just in case you're wondering on how he's able to pick up certain things a lot quicker, because he's literally a quick study. You can tell he's a skilled fighter, and on top of this, his fighting speed, you can see his agility maneuvering with a blade in his hand, cutting down stuff, while having a conversation deflecting stuff. If he just doesn't feel like spamming Force type of abilities. When it comes to melee combat, he can fight. That's why when you see him in different occasions like this, he can still hold his own and put in major work. As I brought up earlier, he fought the Knights of Ren, and combining his force abilities with his melee combat, you can see how much of a legend he's become. Even while a little bit older, he's still handling them. And if he doesn't have a lightsaber on him at the moment, he can use random environmental sticks near the area. If you want to be technical, the Force technically enhances his physical attributes as well, along with his reflexes. That's why you see Force users or Jedi in general jump really high. Same goes for his durability, being able to withstand lightning over and over again without dying. But the main thing that they specialize in is the Force, aka one could say their telekinesis, blast power type stuff. We already know he can summon his lightsaber with the Force when he doesn't have a weapon, and that's something he's consistently done when he doesn't have the weapon in his hand. So even if you manage to get the drop on him in melee combat, he still has something like this to rely on to blast you back in the middle of combat. I love that we get to see comics, because when these movies came out, the special effects was limited, so it might have made him not look as powerful as he is, but just because they don't have the special effects doesn't change somebody's power level. An example, like in the newer movies, they have better special effects. Like somebody like Kylo Ren was able to do something flashy on screen we haven't seen previous movies do, like freezing lasers mid-flight or freezing blaster bolts mid-flight. We haven't seen Luke do stuff like this on screen, but I don't see no reason why he couldn't do something like this on screen. If he had the same level of special effects back then, he could probably do this on screen as well. He just lacked the special effects back then. Like in comic lore, we see Luke do a lot more Force spamming, when in the movies, I felt like he could have spammed his abilities a little more. But that was due to special effect limitations back in the day, though. When he was getting training from one of the best Jedi of all time, he was able to lift up rocks while he was balancing, multitasking, and stacking them. In this occasion, we've seen him Force push several beings to help create some space. Even large bits of machinery, we've seen him use the Force to blast these beings out the way, doing so redirecting turrets and all that good stuff with the Force, along with deflecting and defense that way, but he can also catch the stuff like these and throw them back at them. Yeah. We've seen him Force choke 2 guards simultaneously, night. Can concentrate and lift up human-sized beings with ease. In this occasion with the Knights of Ren, they thought they had weapons. Luke Skywalker simply grabs their weapons and breaks them. The Mandalorian had to face off against these dark troopers that his weapons couldn't even harm at all, really. He could eventually harm and stab through them, though. High difficulty. Look what happens to these beings when Luke Skywalker uses the Force on them. He can just crumble them up like a ball, literally. This X-Wing vehicle, you see how big it is compared to humans, this had to weigh at least 10 tons. We actually see him starting to lift it up with the Force a bit. So we know he can at least lift up 10 tons with the Force. When all this water is trying to come up to him, he can hold back this water pressure, or one could say the sea, he can hold it back. Small stone buildings, he can blast them apart with his blast. Like, yeah. Just him clashing blows with a young Kylo, they destroy the house or cabin they are in, causing all of this destruction because of the Force blast power. It's pretty much common knowledge at this point, whatever the Inquisitors can lift or how much Force or power they can produce, Kylo Ren can do better. So that means, guess what? Luke can do better, or similar to what Kylo Ren can do. Like how Kylo Ren can stop these ships. If Inquisitor level beings can do stuff like this, there's no surprise Luke or Kylo Ren can do similar things with these ships and stuff, obviously, right? His blast power even implied to be able to shake mountain-sized structures, like shaking the entirety of a Star Destroyer. They even say the whole ship shuddered. Other top tiers, like Vader, even say the Force is definitely strong within him. A Star Destroyer doesn't exist in real life, but there's been calculations on the internet of how much it could possibly weigh. And some calcs on the internet would suggest that a Star Destroyer could possibly weigh up to 4 million tons. This is how a Star Destroyer will look compared to the tallest buildings in the world. If you have your doubts about him being this powerful, think about it for a sec. Think about it. Beings like the Grand Inquisitor, somebody that's weaker than Vader, confirmed Luke battled his spirit, and the Grand Inquisitor actually formed an opinion about Luke and said that Luke Skywalker is so strong. There's multiple different Inquisitors. The Grand Inquisitor is at the top of the food chain when it comes to Inquisitors, but all of them are still weaker than Vader and stuff. But just to give you an idea of their power, the fact that Luke fought this version of the Inquisitor, even weaker Inquisitors that are not even the Grand Inquisitor can do stuff like stop ships from taking off. Stuff like this is a common Force wielder thing. If these lower rank Inquisitors can do this, and we saw Luke fighting the Grand Inquisitor, somebody that's mightier than both of these, Luke should be able to do something better than this, honestly, easily. And we've seen Grand Inquisitor fight beings like CANON. This Jedi, for example, with some help, was able to raise this Jedi temple on Lothal. Yeah, this big bullcrap. And whatever he can do, Luke Skywalker can do better when it comes to raw force power in general. So if he can lift an entire temple, Luke Skywalker can do more. This also adds up with him shaking the entire Star Destroyer. It lets you know that these Jedis do over-the-top stuff when it comes to raw power output. Luke shaking millions of tons actually makes sense compared to what his father can do. Vader, with the Force, had enough raw blast power to take down an AT-AT Walker. Yeah. With today's special effects, I could totally see him blasting this crap apart, destroying it by the legs like how Vader did in the comic canon stuff. Yeah, look how small he is compared to it. Something like this in AT-AT, but there's people that have calculated on Wikipedia for it to be over thousands of tons. Vader being his father, and guess who he overpowered? Yep, you guessed it. Vader himself. I shouldn't have to really try to convince you of his force power because it's literally the whole point of the original Star Wars movies, him eventually matching his father in raw power output with the Force. They even straight up say it. Him and Luke are equal with the Force and equally skilled with their lightsabers. So it's not just skills with sword play, but actual raw strength output. For him to overpower Vader, that's impressive considering what Vader can do to other Inquisitor level beings like Cal Kestis. Look at this big old giant blast door Vader can push up with the Force. Beings like Cal Kestis, who are video game characters that are canon with the Force. Vader, I just showed you bullying him. Even though he's pretty impressive with the Force to where things that have to weigh over thousands or hundreds of thousands of tons, working together with other Inquisitor level beings, can overpower big building size constructs like this, and Luke and Vader are above beings like this. It just kind of makes Luke and them look more impressive when you consider they're way above beings like Cal. So I'm not really trying to get into the debate who's stronger, Luke or Darth Vader. Just know that they're somewhat comparable to each other no matter who you think is stronger than whoever. This is one mighty family tree because when Kylo Ren, somebody that has similar blood to Luke Skywalker, was trying to get disrespectful about Skywalker's legacy and name being one of the most formidable Jedi, Supreme Leader Snoke said, Kylo tried to say he was weak, and no, he was correcting him saying no, he's not weak. A being that's so powerful with the Force can even grab you with the Force even when he's not on the same ship as you across space. Like that. This guy respects Skywalker and he be treating other Force-wielding beings like puppets in comparison. So when you see non-canon feats like this, of Starkiller dragging down a Star Destroyer, there's actually beings that are in canon that can do similar stuff to this. Like a canon Luke Skywalker can shake an entire Star Destroyer. It's like saying with the Force, Luke could shake a big chunk of a city based on the size of how Star Destroyers would look if they actually existed in real life. You see how little these buildings and stuff look compared to it? I mean, you got to remember who trained Luke Skywalker to help him hone that irresistible power inside of him. I mean, Yoda is the same being that can pull up on literally mountains. But what do you guys think? Do you guys respect Luke Skywalker? I mean, you have to respect him. He was like the main character in the first original Star Wars movies, one of the mightiest Force users of all time. There's been a lot of Force users in the canon lore that he's above. And when you look at their feats, just know whatever they can do, he can do better. It makes sense. It all adds up. I mean, he is the son of Vader. How could he not be a beast? But before I get going, I want to hear your opinions or thoughts below. Do you guys want me to start doing more Star Wars stuff on the channel? I'm going to try to, if you guys enjoy this content. But thanks for the donations, everybody. It helps out a lot. Respect Luke Skywalker. I'm glad you are enjoying your time on the channel. Make sure you check out the playlist on the channel to see other How Strong videos. If you like what this channel is offering, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys later.